The first red flag wasn't the eviction notice. It was the sound of metal stakes being hammered into my field at 2:13 in the morning. I looked out my kitchen window and saw 3 contractor trucks parked beside my corn rows, their headlights cutting through the fog like prison floodlights. Men in reflective vests were driving red survey flags straight into my land while a white SUV with an HOA decal sat near my fence. Then I saw the paper nailed to the wood post beside my mailbox, final eviction warning. My stomach dropped. Harper Farm had been in my husband's family longer than the county highway behind it. I grabbed a flashlight and walked straight toward them, boots sinking into wet dirt, but the second the men noticed me, they stopped talking. One of them pointed toward the SUV. Denise Calloway stepped out holding a clipboard and smiled like she already owned the place. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. She claimed the county had approved a new property boundary survey 3 weeks earlier. Denise held the clipboard against her chest like the decision had already been signed months ago. She told me the new survey placed nearly 30 feet of my eastern field inside the Cedar Creek HOA expansion zone, and according to their attorney, I had 14 days to vacate the disputed section. I told her my property lines had not moved in 40 years. She smiled and said, "County updates happen all the time." That was the first thing that did not sit right with me. County surveyors do not show up at 2 in the morning with private contractors. Before I could answer, one of the workers started unloading fresh fence posts from a flatbed trailer. They were already building on my land. I pulled out my phone and started recording everything, but the moment Denise noticed, she ordered the crew to stop talking. Then I spotted something stamped on the side of the survey tube sitting in the truck bed. It was dated 3 weeks after my husband's death. At sunrise I drove straight to the county administration building with the video still on my phone and mud dried across my boots. The clerk at the property records counter typed my parcel number into her computer, frowned, then asked me to wait. 10 minutes later she returned with a printed survey map I had never seen before. According to the file, part of Harper Farm had supposedly been reclassified into a planned residential access corridor. The approval date matched the stamp I saw on the contractor's survey tube. What did not match was the signature line. My husband's name appeared beside a consent acknowledgement dated 16 days after his funeral. I told the clerk my husband had been dead for over 2 weeks when that document was filed. She immediately stopped talking and glanced toward an office behind the records room. Then she quietly asked me one question. "Mrs. Harper, did your husband ever mention an original county survey map?" The clerk introduced herself as Maria and waited until the records office emptied before speaking again. She told me my husband came to the county building almost every Friday during the last year of his life asking for copies of one specific survey map, but according to the archive system, the file had vanished 6 months earlier. Then she slid a printed permit across the counter. Cedar Creek HOA had already filed construction approval for a decorative stone entrance road cutting directly through my east pasture. The approval status read pending final land verification. That meant they still needed one last document before they could legally take the property. Maria lowered her voice and told me something even worse. Denise Calloway had personally visited the records office twice that month asking whether any older agricultural easement maps still existed. I drove home fast, unlocked my husband's workshop, and stared at the wall behind his old tool bench where a faded county map used to hang. The nails were still there. The map was gone. I tore through every cabinet in the workshop until I found an old lockbox hidden beneath a stack of tractor manuals covered in dust. Inside were property tax receipts, faded photographs, and a yellow legal pad filled with my husband's handwriting. One sentence had been circled 3 times in black ink: "Do not let them get the original easement survey." Beneath it was a storage unit number across town that I had never seen before. I drove there immediately, signed the access form, and rolled open the metal door. Most of it was junk from our old barn, but in the back corner sat a sealed cardboard tube wrapped in plastic. The moment I pulled the cap off, I saw the county seal stamped across a large survey map dated 1978. Red boundary lines stretched far beyond the current Cedar Creek entrance road. Then I noticed handwritten notes along the bottom edge naming one protected access corridor directly beneath the subdivision's main boulevard. I brought the survey maps straight back to Maria at the county office before Cedar Creek employees could start construction again. She rolled the document across a large table in the archive room and immediately froze when she compared it against the current subdivision blueprint on her monitor. The original easement corridor was still active, which meant the HOA entrance road, security gate, and part of the jogging trail had been built inside protected agricultural access land that could not legally be transferred to private residential control. Maria printed 3 pages of parcel overlays and highlighted every conflict in red ink. There were dozens. If the map was authenticated, the county could suspend the entire expansion project overnight. While she was making copies, my phone started vibrating non-stop. Cedar Creek residents were posting photos online of new orange notices suddenly appearing at the subdivision entrance. Someone inside the county had already triggered a preliminary land compliance review. Then Maria looked at one final document and whispered, "Denise signed the amended boundary request herself." The next morning Cedar Creek looked nothing like the polished neighborhood from the real estate brochures. County inspection trucks lined both sides of the boulevard while residents stood outside in golf shirts and workout clothes staring at orange violation placards zip-tied across the stone entrance gate. Survey crews were repainting boundary markers directly through the HOA jogging path, and half the neighborhood suddenly realized the land dispute was not just about my farm anymore. Denise arrived in her white Tesla and tried to wave everyone away, but people were already shouting questions about property values and legal exposure. Then a county engineer walked to the center of the entrance road and hammered a temporary suspension notice into the ground. Construction stopped immediately. By noon, homeowners were posting screenshots from the county database showing the compliance investigation had expanded into a formal easement fraud review. That was when Tyler Briggs finally called me himself and asked one thing. "Mrs. Harper, who else has seen that original map?" The county hearing started at 8:30 on a Thursday morning, and by the time I arrived the room was already packed with Cedar Creek homeowners holding printed violation notices in their hands. Denise sat beside Tyler Briggs near the front table, but neither of them looked confident anymore. Maria connected the original survey map to the projector while 2 county attorneys compared parcel overlays on separate screens. The moment the easement corridor appeared across the subdivision blueprint, the room erupted. One homeowner stood up demanding to know why HOA dues had funded construction on disputed land. Another asked whether their home titles were now affected. Denise tried blaming outdated county archives, but the attorney cut her off and displayed the amended boundary request with her electronic approval attached to it. Then the county engineer revealed something nobody expected. The protected corridor extended beneath the new clubhouse foundation too, which meant the entire structure might have been built without legal land authority. 3 months later the Cedar Creek entrance still sat behind temporary county barricades while investigators audited every land transfer connected to the development company. Denise resigned before the civil review finished, and Tyler Briggs quietly withdrew from representing the HOA after residents filed a joint lawsuit over unauthorized fees and disputed construction approvals. The county restored my original property boundaries in full and officially recorded the agricultural easement back into the public archive system so it could never disappear again. One Friday afternoon I drove my tractor along the eastern pasture where those red contractor stakes had first appeared. The fresh survey markers now carried county seals instead of HOA flags. Near the roadside, workers installed a new sign approved by the Historical Land Commission, Harper Family Agricultural Preserve established 1978. Then I noticed something almost poetic sitting beside the post in the dirt. The old eviction notice had blown loose from the fence and was half buried beneath the mud.